ElevenLabs has just released a brand new feature that is essentially competing with the Google NotebookLM tool that has been kind of going viral over the last little bit. And this is for creating generative AI podcasts out of any piece of content that you're interested in. ElevenLabs has a really interesting spin on it. So today on the podcast, I'm going to be breaking down exactly what they're doing, why I think this is going to be even more successful than Google's version on NotebookLM, and where I think this is going into the future. So overall, this is going to be a very interesting podcast. I'm super excited. Anytime that NotebookLM or ElevenLabs is coming out with stuff, I'm excited. They got some cool features. Before we get into that, I wanted to let you know that if you are ever interested, or if you've ever been interested in starting a podcast, I would love to have you get my podcast course. I created this really powerful podcast course that explains exactly how and all the steps I took to get 4 top ranked podcasts. I built this all from home with over 4 million downloads. And the course goes step by step, breaking down everything you need to know to get downloads, to create the content, to get great guests on there, and how to actually create a podcast that drives business results. The idea here is this is a podcast course specifically designed for people that are using this to either grow their personal brand, grow their business, get new customers, raise money for their startups, whatever it is, but really driving towards an actual business result. So if this sounds like you, or if this is something you've ever been interested in doing, you can check out the link in the description. This week only, there's going to be a Black Friday, Cyber Monday deal. If you use the coupon code Black Friday, that is also linked in the description. It's 50% off the course, which covers everything from research and planning, editing and production, everything you need to create a successful podcast. So go check it out. And if you've ever thought of doing it, make sure to get it while we have this Cyber Monday deal going on right now. All right, back to ElevenLabs. The thing that I think is really interesting here is Google's NotebookLM has been going viral for a while, and this is something that just got released. My assumption is that right after Google came out with this, ElevenLabs immediately started building a product for it. I'm pretty sure, they just saw the success of that and decided that they could build it themselves. And it's kind of exciting to see people pumping out products like this that are this high quality, they're built very quickly. And you see that out of startups. It's definitely a startup mode thing. You can imagine Google might have been working on it for a very, very long time, and ElevenLabs cranked it out very fast because of their technology that they already have and because they have a very lean, quick team. So to me, that's very exciting. It's called Gen FM, so kind of like like the radio or whatever, FM radio. And it currently is on their readers. They have a ElevenLabs Reader iOS app that can read stuff to you. And I think that the app is useful for if you're trying to get like essentially summaries of news articles and that kind of stuff. Now they're just essentially adding a new way to consume that content, which is as a podcast. It's 2 hosts kind of talking about the topic or the content that you have there. So it's in 32 different languages already. So English, Hindu, Portuguese, Chinese, Spanish, French, German, Japanese, and a bunch of others, which is awesome. I always love how ElevenLabs really rolls it out to a lot of languages. I think that's because, they're based out of Poland. The co-founders are Polish. They know that there's a lot of people that speak a lot of different languages that would love this. So it's cool that it's not just an English only thing. If you want to use it, you first essentially upload a YouTube video. You can upload some text or a document, any of those 3 things, and it's then going to be able to pick 2 voices. It'll do this automatically to essentially create a podcast for it, but there's dozens of voices available that you can actually pick from. So it'll automatically do it. But what I love about it versus I believe Google right now might have a couple options, but mostly you're stuck with whatever they give you. ElevenLabs is known for having, a ton of voices, and they have a marketplace with hundreds and thousands of voices. So I think this is something that's probably pretty cool, and we'll probably eventually be able to see this, LinkedIn right with that marketplace. So you can imagine you could even probably train your own custom model of your own voice and have it like your own voice talking and doing this podcast on whatever piece of content. So I think that's very cool. And that's the number one reason why I think ElevenLabs is going to beat Google is the ability to have way more customization of the voices, or even use your own custom trained voice to essentially read it. So one of the interesting things that you're going to see on the app if you're using it is that the podcast, they sprinkle in like they have like little pauses. This is something I've talked a long time, for a long time about on my podcast. At the beginning, I was like, gee, I could just make an AI generated podcast. And I'd done this in the past before I started this podcast. I'm like, but I actually think in an age of AI where everybody is, we're so used to getting all of this AI content, or it's going to become more and more normal. I was like, people are going to kind of crave this authentic, but it's not perfect kind of content. And so that's why I create this. I don't edit all out my ums. I don't edit out my pauses. I just leave it raw as I'm thinking, as I'm talking. What's interesting is it seems like AI is also going to catch up. So soon that element of what I'm doing will also be automated by AI, which is hilarious to me. The other thing that I think is interesting, though, along with that, is really okay. Well, whatever. I think at the end of the day, the real power behind an actual a person doing a podcast versus the AI, the only real big value is that that person can bring to the table their own personal experiences, anecdotes, and things that are happening. I think that's very interesting. Most of the podcasts I listen to are beyond just, sharing a bit of information. They're like, they share the information and they're like, and I was talking to my friend and they actually invested in this deal and there's this thing that actually happened. And oh, what you might not know is the founder of this company, I was talking to him like 2 years ago and he said X, Y, and Z to me. Right. So like all those kind of anecdotes make things very, very useful. But who knows? Maybe that's just me, trying to cope and say why you should be listening to me instead of an AI podcast. Maybe you'd love the AI podcast just as much. Who knows, right? In any case, here's something really interesting that the team over at ElevenLabs, specifically Jack McDermott, who is in charge of kind of their mobile growth at ElevenLabs, that he said about this. He said, quote, "We debated about how much to introduce ums, ahs, laughter, breathing, and similar human dialogue filters or overlays. We're aiming to strike the right balance of natural human conversation and providing utility from the content." This is really funny. It's the problem they have is like, how human do they have to sound? He said, quote, "As we look at exceptional long form podcasts out there, we find fewer interruptions and more natural, insightful conversation flow. That type of experience is ultimately what we're aiming for while making audio narratives more accessible across voices and languages." They have a really cool demo where they show, someone uploads a document about atoms, and they have this kind of conversation talking about atoms and how that whole thing works. You can choose, any different voice you want, and it sounds really, really cool. So I'm super excited to see what they are able to roll out with this. Earlier this month, they said that they're going to be investing $11 million into the Polish startup ecosystem. So they're going to be building an office down in Warsaw, where that's going to be kind of their company's R&D center to try getting local AI talent. And then they're also expanding to India. So a lot of interesting things are happening. This is right on the back of Google launching just in September, not even that long ago, their Notebook LM. So honestly, I think ElevenLabs is absolutely cooking right now, and they're pumping out some stuff very fast. So very, very impressed with this company and excited to follow along, keep you guys up to date on all of this. Again, if you're interested in using a tool like ElevenLabs or Notebook LM to start a new podcast, I think this is an amazing way to grow your brand. If you don't have a lot of time and you just want to clone your voice on ElevenLabs, start a podcast with that. Or if you actually want to maybe use ElevenLabs to give you some ideas, however you want to do this. If you ever want to start a new podcast, I highly recommend you get my podcast course. And if you're interested in doing that, or you ever plan on doing it in the future, make sure to get the Cyber Monday deal to get 50% off the course. That's not going to last for very long. So if you ever are planning on starting a podcast in the future, go ahead, get it with the code in the description. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will catch you next time.